Okay, so just a quick note about Starfleet Academy because I've watched both those two episodes, and my God, I have seen all kinds of arguments all over the internet about this, and they're kind of what you expect. But I think one thing that I've noticed the most that I think is important to note. Now, I do have a particular opinion. I'll give that real quick to you at the end, but there's reasons for it, right? I think from what I've noticed, like the diversity argument has become a scapegoat. It's like an affectation that we use to mask any other critical evaluation of a Trek series, and that's become a problem. Um, Sometimes, yeah, you get the dopes that are just like whining exclusively about wokeism, who probably were saying it before the episodes dropped, before they even saw anything, and then just kept pounding that drum afterward, right? You're going to run into those people. And then, whether they saw it or not, they just keep saying that kind of stuff. Um, but then you also get, like, these people who caricaturize any critical look of the craft or of the show as just complaining about progressivism's, I don't know, like apparent usurpation of the franchise. And I mean, it seems like that's probably the case, but it's going to have varying degrees of success and whether or not it works, as far as like the sort of inherent value that Trek has always put on a concept of diversity. But that's like with Starfleet Academy, it's there, but it's so far to the side of anything that is really worth critically evaluating about the show that it's an easy thing to point to, right? If you don't want to actually talk about whether or not the show as a story is good, as a craft, as a television show is any good. So I think we're running into this problem that we need to just like we need to dispense with it. We've got to get past it so we can get back to talking about whether or not the story is actually good, whether or not the show's structure actually makes any sense, like that kind of stuff. Beyond all this really simple nonsense, all the lazy heuristics and the cognitive ease of internet arguing, there's a show with storytelling structure. And the craft of that structure is absolutely not beyond reproach just because it leans progressive. If you don't want to be a part of the common noise, all this vapid argumentative tactics, then actually look at what makes for good storytelling and evaluate it accordingly. Or else just admit you don't really care and you're kind of here for the spectacle or maybe just the ideological kinship of being able to feel like this show represents or is clearly created by and representative of an idea about the world that I personally support. So for my part, I take issue a lot more with something I haven't really seen very many people talk about, which is really strange to me, and that's Nala Ake's just profound incompetence. I am baffled by it. I can't understand why more people aren't seeing it or talking about it, and I can't figure out why that isn't a central critical issue for people when it comes to this show. She's over 400 years old. She's part Lanthanite. She's very, very old, but she's tricked by a 6-year-old who steals her comm badge and immediately uses it entirely successfully within moments to escape a Federation holding facility, avoid biodetection, and dodge Starfleet security net for 15 years. Now, I know he's supposed to be a prodigy, right? But, and maybe this is where I'm getting a little nitpicky, but even a 6-year-old is not just going to have a priori knowledge of Starfleet security system, how to navigate it, and how it communicates, how the combatants communicate with other parts of the security system, all of that stuff at the age of 6. That's a posteriori knowledge. That's stuff that you have to have that's knowledge you can only have with experience, after experience. He's only 6 years old, so even if he's a prodigy, he needs to know those systems before he can navigate them the way a prodigy would be able to navigate them. When she does see him again, it's 15 years later, and he's built an impressive criminal record. No matter what had happened to him when he was a child, and no matter what part of that is, at least in part, Nala's fault, he has built a criminal record over the course of 15 years. Now, you can have sympathy for him because you know what kind of life that leads to. But when you are chancellor of the academy, of the most elite academy in the Federation, right, and it is your job to have really, really good discernment skills about who's going to have access to this, there's a reason there's a very competitive admissions process to Starfleet, then you have to have better judgment than this, because her immediate decision is, first of all, she doesn't want to come back to Starfleet, but she's convinced to come back to Starfleet specifically only because it gives her an opportunity to become chancellor. And for her, it's like, well, I'm going to become chancellor solely so I can get this criminal that I haven't seen since he was 6 years old. I'm going to get him into Starfleet Academy as quickly as I possibly can, circumvent the entire strict admissions process, let him talk back and pretty much do whatever he wants, and give him access to technology beyond the clearance of any of the other cadets, and even some of the people who are above cadet status, knowing that he's an absolute prodigy and was able to bypass Starfleet security when he was 6 years old. That is just a degree of incompetence. I mean, I just can't suspend my disbelief on that. That is my biggest issue with the show. All the other stuff is, comparatively surface level stuff, but that is craft character writing problems. But yeah, so just as a complaint, I guess, to start off this video, and then an explanation of why I think it's important that we need to just dismiss all the argument about problems with diversity and actually talk about what the show is as a craft, as storytelling craft and character development craft. Yeah, I mean that's all I got.